This guy is, I think he's the Prince of Jeopardy. He's just got it all. He's got the smarts and he's got the strategy. And I think he should be the host of Jeopardy, but we let that go long ago because they've got, their own plan. But what he is an authority on so many things, among them Jeopardy. And now as Jeopardy enters the Tournament of Champions, some stuff has happened that's been sort of unexpected. Some fan favorites have lost. And I just thought we'd check in with him. He's been so gracious to spend a few moments with us. He is Buzzy Cohen, everybody.
Hey.
Buzzy, you're awesome to join us. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah. Do we Tony, sounds good? He sounds good? Yes. Thumbs up.
Good, yeah.
No. Tony, what is the problem, Tony?
Thanks, Tony.
Are you okay? It's a thumbs up. Okay, I couldn't question.
Okay, great.
All right. So, Buzzy, this is the Tournament of Champions.
Yeah.
So these are all people who've done super well at Jeopardy, and they're all drawn into, this is a month-long tournament? Is that how it works?
It's a couple weeks, but they've sort of, the new executive producer, Michael Davies, has created essentially a Jeopardy postseason. So they had the second chance competition, which ran for 2 weeks before the Tournament of Champions started. And that had players who lost to these super champs like Matt Amodio, Amy Schneider, also a Bay Area person, Mateo Roach, all these people who went on these enormous runs. There were great players who went against them. So first they staged a second chance competition. Those two players were then added to the Tournament of Champions, which just completed the semifinals on Friday. Tonight, the finals begin.
So the surprises that I was reading about, the super champs, you call them, Matt Amodio, the Mateo Roach, et cetera, not being part of things. And this guy from San Francisco, Andrew Hay, is that how he says his last name?
Andrew He, yeah.
Andrew He, thank you. He's like a wrecking ball, this guy.
Yeah, so I'm going to plug a little Jeopardy podcast I'm a part of called Inside Jeopardy. Everyone can listen. Please. And we analyze all the shows as they come by. It's kind of in Jeopardy time. We did a pre-Tournament of Champions kind of preview, sort of handicapping, and we had Andrew picked as our dark horse, as somebody who may not look on paper like somebody who can go far, but the style of play, the depth of knowledge, he was someone that we said, keep an eye on him. Interestingly, in this semifinal, he was up against Mateo, who won the Super Champ exhibition game that Jeopardy aired on election night, because they knew, there was going to be a lot of election coverage. So they had a game just between the Super Champs so that A, they would get a chance to play, B, people wouldn't miss a game that actually mattered. So Mateo won that. Andrew beat Mateo. And interestingly, he also beat Eric Ahasik, who's from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Eric won his quarterfinal game by doing back-to-back true daily doubles. So he had, I think, about 5,000, bet everything, got it. Next clue he picked, another daily double, got it. Bet it all, got it right. And that was kind of what happened with Andrew. Andrew found the first daily double in the first round before he had much money. He did the maximum bet. Then in Double Jeopardy, he had $7,000, hits the daily double, does a maximum bet, gets it right. He's up to 14,000. A couple clues later, he's at 16,800, maximum bet. So he made the maximum bet on all three daily doubles and had a major upset against Matea and against Eric.
Yeah, Tony, don't we have a little bit of that? I think we have a little bit of that Jeopardy. It's by the way, we had recommended Buzzy's podcast, Inside Jeopardy, so that's something you should check out. Do we have it or not? Do we have it, Tony? Yes? Can you run a little bit of it? The what he's talking about, Buzzy, is and you've said this before, it's all about the daily doubles, and that's a big, that can really be the crushing blow. So here's a little bit, some highlights.
You were looking for it and you found it. What's your wager?
I got to do it. All of it, 7,000.
Wow. Betting everything on
That's
world
Andrew,
leaders.
who Buzzy's talking about. Andrew He.
After helping to establish this as an independent country, Eduard Shevardnadze became its president in 1995.
What is Georgia?
Yes, and you have a big lead.
Stop for a second, Buzzy. That's not a hard question. Like when you see something like that show up, do you think to yourself, "Oh, that's a chip shot"?
I think that's a medium. I'll give that a medium question. I mean, it's certainly something that when you're studying, when you're getting ready to be on the show, you got to know that kind of stuff, but it's not the kind of thing that where a casual viewer would know. I will say that in general, the material on this Tournament of Champions has been pretty difficult in a way that I like. I think the Tournament of Champions should be hard, so I'm vibing on it, but a lot of people have been commenting about how challenging it is.
Here is the second one. As you say, he picked up a second Double Jeopardy and he went for it all. Go ahead, Tony.
Perhaps fortuitous than you found it, but what will your wager be?
All of it.
Well, did not think you were going to say that. With a lot on the line, here's your clue in elegies.
16,800 on the line.
1855's Haworth Churchyard was Matthew Arnold's tribute to these literary sisters, written soon after the last one passed.
Who are the Bronte sisters?
That is correct. You have 33,600.
Now, how about that, Buzzy? Was that? Yeah, go ahead.
That one I thought was quite a bit easier, but that one seemed a little harder for Andrew. Maybe he was just taking more time to make sure he didn't miss something obvious because so much was on the line.
Sure.
But he kind of jumped on the Georgia one and it took a little more time. Interestingly enough, Eric, who had no daily doubles, in the Double Jeopardy round, he had 20 buzz attempts and 10. He was able to get in on 10 of those and got all of them correct, ended with $17,000. He couldn't quite get enough to catch Andrew and make him play, but that is a really high score, 17,000 going into final, having not hit a daily double. So it was really, just shows these games, this Tournament of Champions has been incredible.
So were it not for the daily doubles is the implication. It's
Absolutely.
Likely that,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, those daily doubles just in the Double Jeopardy round were worth 23,800. You've got a close game then. You're at like 17,000 and 15,000. You've got a horse race there.
We're talking to Buzzy Cohen, of course, the Prince of Jeopardy. He does this podcast called Inside Jeopardy. And Buzzy, I'm going to ask you a more fundamental question that you just actually provoked in my mind. If you got rid of the daily, I love the daily doubles. We all love them, and they can change the game so suddenly, and change the outcome. Is that a good thing, though, or does it actually? Is there an element of chance then that sort of maybe doesn't always lead to outcomes where the best Jeopardy players get ahead?
Well, here's what I'll say. First of all, I think there's Jeopardy the quiz and Jeopardy the game. There are a lot of players who play at home and have something called a Coriat score, which is basically getting rid of those wagering things and just what's your raw score? How many things did you know that day? I think that there are players who play Jeopardy as a quiz, and then there are players who really understand the game aspect and the daily doubles. And I think that's what makes it exciting, because the daily doubles are this kind of randomizing factor. Look, in my Tournament of Champions, I was way behind. I found a daily double at the right moment. I bet it all. And all of a sudden I went from being way behind to clinching it with something like that. And, we're watching this for entertainment, and I think it certainly makes it more entertaining. And I think that the players who really understand how to play the game and know the trivia are the ones who can do stuff like that. Because, of course, you can find a daily double, you can know which categories to hunt in, you can know that how much you should bet, but if you don't know the facts, it doesn't matter. I mean, Andrew knew both those questions, so that's what. Right.
Let's go to the Final Jeopardy, Tony. Do you still have it there? Can we bring it up? Final Jeopardy? No? I don't know. The final. Here it is. Good. This is Andrew He from San Francisco. I mean, the Bay Area has done really well in Jeopardy. Yeah. And again, this is the dark horse pick from. Go back a little bit, because it was a question nobody got.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to the question if you can, Tony. Just go back, 30 seconds or whatever it is. Maybe it's 45 seconds. There it is. Thank you. Okay. This is the Final Jeopardy question in Tournament of Champions. London locales is the category. To fight malaria, this former royal estate helped move quinine-producing cinchona plants from, I missed it. Okay. Anyway, no one got it.
Yeah.
So you have the top players, none of them got it. By the way, if we had just been sitting in the living room betting $5, you would have thought, that has to be a long shot, right? That none of those people, all three, are not even going to have a guess?
Well, I generally feel like when you're at this level of play, and this is how I think people should be thinking about their wagering, either everyone's going to get it right or no one's going to get it right. Right.
Oh, that's really interesting. Oh, that's
and
great.
So it's like, it's either something that you can kind of like get to. It's very rare at this level of play that you kind of have a mixed board, I find. Sometimes it's like there are kinds of questions where you need more time to maybe figure it out. But generally it's like there's something in the clue that really sparks for everyone or not. And this was one of those ones where it was tricky. It was a tricky question. I certainly didn't get it in the audience watching these shows be taped. But so in terms of when you're in second place, this one was a runaway. Andrew had this game, no one could catch him. But for instance, the previous night when Matt Amodio played, everyone said, why did Matt bet 0? Well, Matt's in second place going into final. He's going to bet like he can't catch, the person in first place can always bet $1 more if they all get it. So he basically said, what if everyone gets it wrong? And I bet 0, all of a sudden I'm the winner. So I think that's a really good way to look at these. It's not always the case, but going in, if you're wagering, not knowing what the question is, you can assume everyone gets it right or no one gets it right. Is it easy?
There is a real, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the strategic aspect of Jeopardy that is also, again, there's a premium on knowing how to play that part of it. It's got nothing to do with knowledge per se. It has to do with, so there's the knowledge base, there's the quickness, there's the, by the way, what was the answer? What was the question answer on?
Kew Gardens.
Okay.
Kew Gardens in London.
Kew Gardens, okay. And then there's that thing that we talked about, in past conversations, which is like when you were first training to be on the show, you were training with, like a way to learn the little plunger that you hit, the button. And so all of that has been equalized because everybody by now at tournament champion level, all of that, they're all ninjas at, right?
I mean, I think if they've won the number of games they have, if they've made it through the quarterfinals against someone else, in the case of Andrew and Eric, they're fast enough. They know they've got the knowledge. It's starting to get to a tight game, and these scores kind of show that.
Right, exactly. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the equalizers are all in place. So now it comes down to, in a way, it's a pure competition with some amazing minds and players. And I think that's right. If you like, that's right. So in a way, they have to smash it.
Smash it with your iron rod.
They have to smash the button the way the same people on our show smash like buttons for the show.
Exactly.
That's a great point. Yes,
exactly. And one thing that's going to be really interesting is the format for the Tournament of Champions is a little different this year. When I played, it was a 2-day total point affair. You play 2 games against the same people, and you add the scores together. This year, they're doing it more like sports finals. So it's the first player to win 3 games. So whereas that first game final, you might play a little more conservatively. Now it's like you play every game to win, and maybe you make a big wager and you lose. It doesn't matter. You're coming back tomorrow. So I think, without giving anything away, I think there's going to be some really exciting games because people are just going to why not take a moonshot on every daily double or every final? You know you're going to have another chance to just play hard because you could end up like Andrew here, who doesn't even have to play final. It doesn't matter. So, I think that is going to be an interesting change, and it definitely changes the mindset, but I think it's going to be really cool.
I think that's a great point. I mean, that's such a great point. It's not the cumulative dollar amount anymore. It's now just win it. Oh, that's right. So everybody, as you say, is throwing the bomb. Yeah, exactly. I think that's great. All right, so the podcast is Inside Jeopardy. Yep. You're getting all kinds of love in the chat with he's the best dresser, he was the best. Buzzy, it's not just me. You're loved by the audience as well. So,
thanks. I love coming on the show. Thanks for inviting me.
It's so cool. And of course, Buzzy was there in the audience. I mean, I get that now from what you said. So it must be all you can do. And that's it's a tribute to your professionalism, my friend, that you can kind of keep it under wraps.
Yeah. But I have a general question I wanted to ask.
Yeah, go ahead. This is fabulous producer John Daly. Go ahead, please.
If you could speak to the regular season in terms of the consistency of the difficulty level, because there are games where I walk in, my mom's watching Jeopardy, and I'll clear an entire segment. There are other games where I don't get a single answer or give a single question.
So I think that's just the luck of the draw. I mean, they work really hard. Not to plug the podcast again, but we had an interview with the head writers, and they talk about how they try to make the boards balance. They try to make a whole game flow. And I think that it's just you get up there and it's like it's your category or it's not. And I think the great players make it so that they don't have a day where it's not their category.
I'd like to throw out a question if I could as well, because I've been thinking about it ever since we played Andrew's answer, the Bronte sisters. And I thought to myself, it looked on his face like he didn't really know the answer, but really, what other literary sisters are there? So this one, Buzzy, tests your knowledge, your trivia knowledge. What other literary possibly have picked?
I'm going to dodge the question for a second while I try to think of it. I think when you've got $17,000 on the line, that face is I'm reading the question again. I'm making sure I'm answering the right question. I'm not doing something silly and saying, "Oh, it's the wrong century." Okay, what other literary sisters could it have been? Was there an Amy Lowell and another Lowell sister? Someone in the comments is going to get down. I mean, I think there were multiple Lowells, perhaps, and there's someone else who's like in the back. I'm not going to go for this because I'm out of training. But anyway,
but you're saying
you want to make sure you're answering Bronte, and they're not asking for which Bronte sister. You get up there, I think that's more what's going on. And usually, as you figured out, you don't need to know the actual fact. You need to know who are the famous 19th century literary sisters, right? That's all you need to know. So a lot of times people are like, "Oh, how did he know?" Blah 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 blah. But what you're doing is exactly what good Jeopardy players do, which is you don't need to know, who wrote every single play ever. You just got to know the big, Romanian. There's only one Romanian playwright they're ever going to ask about, and it's Ionesco, right? Because there's no one else. So, if it's this Romanian poet, playwright, blah, 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 and you don't know the name of the play, you don't know blah, 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 blah. Romanian playwright, it's Ionesco, right? So that's kind of the way to approach Jeopardy for everyone.
No, that's that's a great, and you're right. With that much on the line, you don't want a stupid misstep, and we've seen it before. So that pause may be associated with that, rereading the question and kind of going through that checklist. But that's wild. Well, Buzzy, we love talking to you. And again, I'll mention the podcast. It's really cool for those who have knowledge of Jeopardy or want knowledge of Jeopardy, Inside Jeopardy, with real Jeopardy insiders. You've got Buzzy, and then you've got writers from Jeopardy, and it's just a conversation. Like it's really. It's probably the most inside conversation you could have around, this cultural icon, which is Jeopardy. So, a lot of love for you, my friend. He is at Buzztronics on Twitter. I don't know how long we'll all last on Twitter. Maybe forever, though. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, if people want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Buzzy Cohen Official. But I'm enjoying kind of the Last Days of Rome vibe that's going on over on Twitter.
Buzzy Cohen, everybody. Thanks, Buzzy. Good stuff.
Mark.
Yeah. Jeopardy champ. Loving it.